Jonathan, thanks very much for joining me this morning. The first question I'm asking everyone when I get on an interview with them is the current state of play within the business. So how are things at FitBack?
Should we say interesting? Interesting, challenging, developing, surviving. I suppose those are kind of a few words to use. It's been initially quite difficult. We thought we were going to potentially lose quite a few clients because I think physiotherapy has traditionally been seen as a hands-on kind of profession and job in terms of helping people to get better. So through soft tissue work, stretching and things. But for the last few years, we've been moving more towards remote services. So managing people's injuries through video consultations, telephonic support as well. And it's we've seen a big shift really. We moved a couple of clients to remote support literally within a few days of lockdown happening, when there were kind of site restrictions on to many of our clients. So physios being physios, they're very good at doing the hands-on kind of delivery of physio and the questioning and things, but not always the best in terms of technology, knowing where to click on screens and electronic devices and things like that. So it's been a challenge to get them kind of up and running, but they've really taken to it really, really well. And we've managed to move most of our clients to remote support, so using video technology and telephones for support. We've obviously, it's not just the physios that have been involved in that process, lots of line managers, HR, etc., really getting their buy-in to that kind of support, saying remote stuff won't work for us, we need the hands-on. But it's been really, really well accepted generally, and we've had some amazing results with it. Sickness levels have been, from a musculoskeletal point of view, have been managing to keep those down for our clients. And actually, in the time that we've been providing that remote support, when there's been a lack of NHS services, face-to-face services, GP available appointments, and NHS physio services, we've become very much a first line for people to attend to get advice on ongoing musculoskeletal problems. And we've actually picked up and identified some really serious kind of pathologies, picked up various types of cancer and things amongst patients, and we've been able to set them up for appropriate investigation. So sometimes we can be seen as glorified massage therapists, and that's some people think that's all we do, but actually, with the careful questioning with our examinations and assessments, we are able to pick up really kind of serious pathologies which would otherwise have kind of gone missing. So it's that's been really really important and really vital for us to be involved with that.
Jonathan, lots of BMA's members now are kind of coming back to business in earnest after a prolonged period of lockdown. What kind of physical effects on particularly shop floor employees should employers in our sector be considering as people return to work?
We're going to be going back to our sites gradually, not necessarily all at once. So we may keep a mixture of remote and hands-on support. So we will carry on probably doing our triage. So the initial assessment might be over the video or via phone. We can self-manage most of those through stretches and exercises. But there will be a certain percentage that do need that bit more hands-on. Obviously, being hands-on means touching people, moving, stretching, etc. So where we are seeing a return to on-site, we will be wearing PPE, so masks, and aprons, and keeping social distancing as much as possible, so we can still offer advice and show people exercises without the need to deliver hands-on. So we have all our kind of infection control policies, which are in line with Public Health England, and so we will be slowly introducing that. Now, the kind of environmental constraints are sometimes we don't have the most spacious of rooms. Sometimes with space availability, we might be in a bit of a store cupboard at the back of the site, which isn't always ideal, but we have to work with the restrictions. So our risk assessments are taking everything from entry in and out of the clinic, in and out of the treatment room, availability of sinks to wash hands between patients, clients, fresh air, windows, ventilation, etc. as well. We can't have people sat in a waiting room, next to each other. So there's a huge amount to be done to get back onto site, and it does seem quite a big effort to do. But I think over the next kind of few weeks or months, we will be introducing more in terms of on site. And I think moving forward, I think remote support will form a big part of our business moving forward. If you had Googled remote physiotherapy support or triage or video consultations about 4 months ago, so around February time, there were one or two players in the market doing it. One of us being one of them. But now, if you Google remote physiotherapy support, everyone's doing it. Not on a huge national scale, but all the small physiotherapy clinics are running this, and they've needed to do that to be able to maintain some kind of business during the pandemic. But I think moving forward, people's openness to use video consultations has really improved. So yeah, it's going to be interesting coming back. We can do some work almost immediately in the next couple of weeks where we can do workplace assessments, so we can keep our social distancing. We can still observe people working in their environment. So in warehouses and manufacturing sites, we can look at that. So we can maintain some kind of work with those clients. And I said, keeping that distance and without avoiding the kind of hands-on treatment. So quite a challenging time is getting back to site. And while some sites are saying, when can you come back? We want you back on site. I think they haven't really looked at the bigger picture. And some of our clients are saying, you can come back on site the next couple of weeks. We just want the service we had before. And when we question them, saying, are you shaking hands with people every time they come onto site? Or are you sitting next to people in the canteen shoulder to shoulder? And if not, why not? And then we can basically, and that often then kind of shuts them up, if you like, because then I think it's not just a case of going back on site and carrying on. Everything's need to be, lots of things need to put in place to protect us and our physios and the employees as well.
From a physical point of view, what could be involved in someone that's been on furlough for 3 months, perhaps kind of married to the sofa, going back to moving about heavy pieces of sanitary ware or shower trays or other kind of really physical activity in the workplace?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, actually. We've had I was thinking about writing an article for it to be published, and someone kind of just beat me to it. So the kind of question is, have you become conditioned or deconditioned during furlough? I suppose there's two kind of schools of thoughts of that. If you a couple of our clients have really heavy physical jobs, and they're shifting a huge amount of beer. So in the dray industry, and they're shifting 10 tons of beer a day and involved in lots of kind of manual work. And for that client in particular, they kind of with the aging workforce, these are people who've been working in that business for maybe 10, 15, 20 years. And for many of them, that's their only really real form of exercise. And because they're working, 10 hours a day or 8 hours a day, or whatever they're doing, shifting. So when they get home, they're exhausted. So for that cohort of people, maybe they've gone home and during furlough and they've been inactive completely. We don't know exactly what the effect of that have been, but what we do know is that as soon as you stop exercising, you lose cardiovascular fitness, you lose muscle strength, range of movement in your joints. So for that sector of people going back to work, and my thought process is, if you're an athlete and for some reason you're not unable to train, so say for example you get locked in a room for 3 months, no particular injury, are you then expected to come back and perform to the same amount of performance as you were pre being locked in a cupboard, if you like, or pre-injury? You can't be expected to perform because you're at risk of injury. You can't, you won't have the same cardiovascular fitness, muscle strength. And for these individuals in particularly hard industries, are they expected to come back to the same level of productivity as they were, in February or early March? So I think potentially, people need to be really, really careful. And they say it's going to be the biggest return to work globally ever, which is right. I think things need to be put in place to prevent people from getting injured. So if you haven't lifted anything heavy for 3 or 4 months and you're suddenly asked to lift and a huge amount, then there is risk of injury. So there's a big point here in terms of looking at warm-up exercises potentially, so getting your employees warmed up. We're speaking to a couple of our companies about getting some exercise programs to them, and we have a couple of great videos for that, which I believe you have access to. If you don't, we can give you access to that for your clients. But getting people almost prepared and doing a bit of kind of pre-season training, if you like, before going back to playing rugby. You want to be as fit as you can and get your body moving and get it used to all its movements. So doing some functional movements at home, and actually potentially, we may see a shift where we are having warehouse warm-ups, if you like, and getting people just moving. It creates that it's a good atmosphere and gets everyone smiling at the start of the day. But it's things you've seen in the Far East in the past, kind of in Japan and in the big kind of manufacturing sites where thousands of people are doing kind of warm-up exercises. And we thought, will that ever come over to the UK? But actually, I think now might be a really, really good opportunity to do that. But yeah, there may well be. And the flip side of things are during furlough and the time at home, people may have gone the other way. So if people haven't been used to exercise, they've suddenly got a bit more time on the hands. They may have said, look, I'm going to lose a few pounds. I'm going to really get out walking every day, maybe jump on the bike and go out and exercise. So for those individuals, it may have been a really positive time in terms of work-life balance and dieting and getting fitter. So there are likely to be I'm not sure the percentages, it's anyone's guess really, but I think for some of those individuals, when they return to work, it might be a case of having to calm down the amount of exercise because they don't have that time. So it's going to be an interesting few months ahead, really.
Okay. We talked previously, not in front of the camera, about working from home and some of the particular risks involved from working perhaps in a workspace that hasn't been designed for full days. What advice would you give companies that have still got a lot of their office-based staff working from home?
Lots of things really. So we've seen throughout our clients, and also been on webinars recently. I think companies have gone in a number of directions on this. Some of the bigger organizations where people haven't been able to take equipment home, such as laptop stands, special ergonomically designed mice and things, they've all had to leave that at work. So they've basically sort of left the building, so to speak, and not been able to go back, and suddenly are thrown at home with a laptop with no specialist equipment that they may have had in the office. So those are the larger organizations with really kind of strict policies and things. That there are some of the smaller organizations, they've been able to take things home with them, so laptop stands and mouse and keyboards, etc. Some people have even managed to take home chairs and things with them if they kind of in the smaller businesses. So taking a chair home on the tube in London hasn't been quite so easy for some clients. And there's been a few companies who have basically thrown a lot of resources at it. So right from the word go, we have a couple of clients who said, look, if you're used to having this in the office, then let's get it ordered for home, or we can try to get the equipment home. And then on the flip side, you've had even some huge, large organizations globally have said, let's just see how this goes and see what happens. And sure enough, after sort of 2 months or 3 months of people working from home, we're starting to see people with aches and pains. Their backs are getting sore, their necks are getting sore. And when we speak to them, they're sat on a outdoor garden chair, a fold-up outdoor metal garden chair with no back support and no, not comfortable at all. So, most of us are quite resilient. We can last a few days, maybe a week, but then we start to get some aches and pains, and then that manifests itself in stiffness, discomfort, headaches, low back pain. And we're finding people are particularly people who are living in sort of flats or small, smaller kind of environments or shared shared accommodation or shared with flats with friends, that they're competing for dining room table space and sitting on a wooden bench or a wooden dining chair with no support. And it is quite difficult, but there is a lot that people can do in terms of even stuff around the house for raising laptops, for example. And you can buy fairly cheap laptop stands to correct the height of things, and getting separate keyboard and mouse and things. So we've put together some information which I can send on to you, Tom, which you can make available as a free resource. So just giving some tips about how to make yourself more comfortable. But it's not just the working environment, it's also the kind of routines as well. So people in the office might be getting up and walking around, going up and down the stairs, going to the loo, going to get coffee, drink, and actually moving around. And people are in danger of basically sat on their bums for potentially a whole day at a time, and just moving 5 meters just to the kitchen to go and get a cup of coffee, and then sat back down again. So we are designed to bend, twist and turn, and our bodies don't like static positions for long periods of time, full stop. And we've got people working on settees with their laptops on their laps, and there's a whole range of stuff which you can look at to make things more comfortable. And we have been doing a lot of remote sessions, video consultations to help with home workstation setups.
And we'll put the links to some of those resources in the blurb for this video as well.
Sure.
So people can access that. One final question, Jonathan. Just before the lockdown, you held a really good session at our General Council where you had everyone up on their feet doing some exercises and just starting to think about the kind of physiotherapy needs of their business. What support are you able to give BMA members as the lockdown eases? And I know we've covered quite a lot already in the earlier questions, but is there anything in particular that you'd say this is the thing that could really help you right now?
Yeah, I think certainly the home support. So I think home working support, and bad backs and bad necks and shoulders, knees, they don't just clear up. Haven't stopped because of COVID. I think people are still exercising and still trying to keep fit, and we're seeing people who are picking up injuries from starting to exercise for the first time. So all the kind of aches and pains associated with everyday living, maybe you've been out in the garden digging and you've picked up an injury, or you've been out on the bike, or you've injured yourself that way, and you may have stiffened up because of lack of exercise. But certainly the home support in terms of helping with workstation advice and setups, how you can adapt what you've got at home, so you don't need to buy all that necessarily the expense of equipment. With regards to returning to work, if people are starting to return to work and picking up those bad backs from lifting and twisting, or maybe the commute again, back in the car driving to work, then we can certainly help with remote access and self-management, so video consultations, and that's a pay-as-you-go service. So we don't have any kind of retainers on that, so it's a very good cost there. And then also we are able to come and do workplace assessments, so have a look at reducing kind of risk areas, maybe in terms of lifting and manual handling. And with that we can keep social distance. But also from the on-site stuff we are starting to do more work, and we can provide on-site clinics as well. Obviously with masks and PPE, which is going to be the norm for the foreseeable future. But and also exercises as well. I'll certainly give you those exercises. The daily 9 that you're talking about is the exercise I've got everyone doing, and we can give you that link so you can send that out to everyone. And you might decide to kind of incorporate that into your team warm-ups in the morning, and get yourself limbered up and ready for action.
Jonathan, thanks very much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time.